Last week I made a video about the Meinl Cymbal tuners. Really I just, stated my opinion on them. But in that video I hinted that I would be making a set of them, so let's do that. I came up with 3 different ways to make these cymbal tuners, but of course for all of them we need to start with some magnets. I bought 30 of these 3/8 of an inch neodymium magnets online for like $15, so the price per magnet is about $2. The first way I thought about making these, which is also the cheapest way to make these, is to use tape. And you can actually buy 2 rolls of electrical tape at the dollar store for $1, and that's what this is. And then the second way I came up with was to use heat shrink tubing, which is a little bit more pricey, but I got this assortment of heat shrink tubing for only $5. And then the last way I thought of was to use Sugru. I had some left over from my drum hacks with Sugru video, so if you don't know what this is, I'll suggest you watch that video and I describe what it is and ways you can use it around the drum set, but I thought that this would work well for this application. I'll start with the tape. This is definitely the most annoying way to make these and is probably the least durable out of the 3, but again this is the cheapest. This first step is the easiest. I just added 2 layers of tape on the face of the magnet. And the annoying part is cutting off the excess because the magnets just want to stick to the scissors. And then of course the same thing on the other side of the magnet, 2 layers of tape and then cut off the excess. And at this point you could leave it how it is, but I decided to cover the side. The easiest way I found to do this is just to lay out a strip of tape, put the magnet on the tape, and then roll it up. And to cut it, I cut some slits in it and then just follow the magnet around to cut off the excess. It's kind of annoying and really fussy, but if you take your time, it comes out pretty decent. Oh yeah, then do it again. And now for the heat shrink tubing. I experimented with different sizes, but the size that seemed to work the best was 3/8, which is also the size of the magnet. So all I did was cut pieces of the heat shrink tubing to the same size as the magnet, and you'll see that the little squares on my cutting mat are the same size as the magnet, so I just used those as a reference when cutting. Then I just slid the magnet in, and to heat the heat shrink, I'm going to use a heat gun. And whenever I use a heat gun, people always ask if a hairdryer will work, which I've never tried it, but if I had to guess, I would say that it probably would. And I didn't plan on this, but I decided to add another piece of the heat shrink tubing just to cover up the edges of the magnet. And then of course for the second magnet, it's the same process. Now for the Sugru version. This is the simplest way and the easiest way to make these, and I didn't mention this in the beginning, but it is the most expensive way. A 3-pack of this costs about $10, so if you do decide to go this route, I would suggest you watch my other video where I show some other uses for Sugru around the drum set. But as far as making these cymbal tuners, it's super simple. I just wrap the magnets with the Sugru and let it dry. And if you choose to do it this way, just be careful when they're drying, because if they get too close, they'll jump together because they're magnets. And if that does happen, the Sugru will get squished together and you'll have to start over. So I really wanted to compare these to the Meinl version. So Meinl, if you're watching this, my address is in the description. And by the way, people always say I should get a PO box, which I've actually had one for a while now, and it's in the description of every video. So if you've ever wanted to send me anything, go right ahead. But I'll talk about these, the ones that I made, more after I show you how they sound. So the first thing you'll hear is the cymbals by themselves with nothing on them, and then you hear them with the magnets. So it was kind of hard to tell through the video, but the electrical tape and the heat shrink version didn't work as well as the Sugru version. So basically the heat shrink tubing was too hard, and same thing with the electrical tape, there wasn't enough layers to really, dampen the magnets, I guess. So whenever I try to crash on the cymbal, the magnets would just vibrate too much and it would sound like the cymbal was cracked. But the Sugru version worked pretty well actually. I'm guessing it's because it's a lot softer than the heat shrink tubing, so it kind of absorbs the vibrations a little better. But as far as these as a product, and the Meinl ones could be completely different, but I don't know. The one thing that I noticed, and that you probably noticed too, was on the crash cymbal, it was just too much dampening and basically choked the whole cymbal. And even with the magnets closer to the bell, it was still really choked. So at first I thought, oh, well, this doesn't work well on smaller cymbals, which makes sense because they're smaller, there's less, room for the cymbal to, wiggle around and vibrate compared to a bigger cymbal. But even on this ride cymbal, which is a Byzance Stark ride, it's still a pretty bright sounding cymbal, at least compared to this one. So the thing that I realized was, these don't work well on bright sounding cymbals. So what I'm about to say makes sense on paper, but I don't know if it's actually true. But if you think about it, a dark, dull, dry cymbal wants to be dry and dull. So if you try to make it more dry and dull by putting a magnet on it, it works. But if you try to do it on a bright, shimmery cymbal, it doesn't really work and just makes it sound dead. So my conclusion with these things is, if you have really dry sounding cymbals, then go for it. These totally work and totally dry it out even more. But if you have bright cymbals, then I wouldn't bother with these things because of this totally choke out the sound and make them sound dead. But yeah, if you guys have any other ideas on how to make these things, definitely let me know in the comments and I might try it out. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching.